Welcome back to the next video in my college football preview series where we will be breaking down all of the rosters of my top 10 teams in college football going into the 2026 season. If you missed my last few videos, you can go and check those out. I did them on Ole Miss, LSU, and Texas A&M. Be sure to go visit those and then come back and watch this one so you're fully up to date within the series. If you're new around here, when we break down these college football teams, we look at four main things. The first one being their primary offseason changes. This can be head coaching changes, coordinator changes, transfer portal additions and departures. I do leave out high school players here. I got some comments about that on the LSU video. I just don't have time to go and watch high school film, so I kind of just name rankings based on what I know. Next up, we'll get into the players themselves. We'll go through the starting lineups and we'll place these units into tiers D through S, S obviously being the highest. Specific draft eligible players that I've done enough film review on, we'll get numerical grades to go with it. And then we'll get into the scheme because obviously this channel is called My Film Review, so we have to highlight the scheme. We'll talk through the offense and the defense, what to expect this year if there's something different, or what worked and what didn't work last year and what they need to improve going forward. And then finally, we'll end the video with a schedule prediction where I'll go through and pick all of their games. I spent plenty of time on the intro, you get the hang of it, so let's move on to the number 7 team, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. This video is gonna be pretty simple. I'll start off with that when getting into the coaching changes. Notre Dame retained pretty much all the key people on their staff, including their head coach, offensive coordinator, and defensive coordinator. This is actually the first time in Marcus Freeman's tenure that he's kept his coordinators for more than 1 year in a row, so fun fact there, good for him. I'll kick this one off with a quick recap of their last season like I did the Texas A&M video, and we'll go through how their games went. Obviously, we know that they started off against Miami and Texas A&M, and they lost both of those games in 2025, and little did they know that would basically be the end of their season, which if you ask me, isn't fair, but we'll keep going with this. At the end of the season, you had two 10-2 teams, and even though Miami had worse losses than Notre Dame, the committee had to honor the head-to-head, because if you don't, that sets a really nasty precedent, and literally the only way to genuinely determine who a better team is to have those two teams play. It does suck that it was week 1, it was CJ Carr's first start, it was a close game, I get it. The other thing about the Miami game that's crazy is I thought Notre Dame had a really good chance to win if they maybe gave Jeremiah Love more than 10 carries in the game, but I digress, it is what it is. They would end up routing the rest of the teams they played, including beating Syracuse like 70-0, which was 35-0 at I think the first quarter, maybe the second quarter. Just insane, dominating teams throughout the entire year, and then they came down to not making the playoffs. They would opt out of the Pop-Tart Bowl, which was highly controversial, and I have my own strong opinions on this one. I don't think you should ever opt out of a bowl game unless it's for, yeah, I can't really think of any good reasons why you should opt out of a bowl game, especially when you're in one of the highest ones that they have, and you were gonna play another team that was left out of the playoff after only having 2 losses. I get it, I get you're upset. Go out and play football and prove on the field that you deserve to be there and dominate the team you're playing. Don't quit. I know the players said they didn't wanna play too, but like, as a head coach, that would just not be an option for me. You're going out there and you're playing in that damn game. So yeah, last year ended up having a really bad ending, but it doesn't really matter because you're gonna be so much better this year. And let's break that down, starting off with head coach Marcus Freeman. And I am really impressed with Marcus Freeman. I must say, he is one of my favorite coaches in college football. If I was not 5'7", 170 pounds in high school and had the chance to play college football, he would have been a guy that I would have wanted to play for. I think he is a true player's coach. He's a leader. Everyone raves about him. High respect for him, but he also gets to bring back his 2 coordinators in Chris Ash for the defense and Mike Denbrock for the offense, who are both respectively very good at their jobs. We'll talk a little bit more about those two during the scheme section, so I'll move on to some of their losses on the coaching staff. In my opinion, the biggest loss is corners coach Mike Mickens, who is going to the Baltimore Ravens. When you look at his record with defensive backs, it's impressive to say the least. He's coached Sauce Gardner at Cincinnati, Kyle Hamilton, who he's now reuniting with, Xavier Watts, Benjamin Morrison, Leonard Moore, and All-American freshman Tay Johnson, who we will talk about. Replacing him is Aaron Henry, coming over from Illinois, and he did coach Devon Witherspoon there, so there is a little bit of pedigree to him, and we'll see what he can do with this elite group of DBs. I also want to give a shout out to new defensive line coach Charlie Partridge, joining them from the Indianapolis Colts. This is a very accomplished guy joining the staff, and I think of all the groups that need some better coaching, it's this unit. You have a lot of potential there, but a lot of pieces to put together. This is the guy who helped the Colts have a top 10, top 5 rushing defense in the NFL last season, and during his years at Pitt, he coached some insane defensive tackles. He is a whisperer on the defensive line. I think he's going to have a lot of fun on this team. And that really covers the key points for coaching. There were some smaller additions and losses here and there, but they kept their big three positions and they hired some other guys who I think are going to have a really big effect on the team. Moving on to the players that they lost, they had 6 players drafted in this year's NFL draft, obviously headlined by Jeremiah Love being the 3rd overall pick. I thought that Jeremiah Love was one of the best running back prospects in recent years. I didn't realize this was controversial, but in my full TikTok review of him, I said that he was better than Ashton Jeanty, and people kind of gave me heat for that, but I'm sticking to it here. I would take Love over Jeanty. He is the perfect mix of speed, power, vision, wiggle. Like, he can do everything that you would ask a running back to do and so much more. The 4.3 speed did not surprise me in the slightest. We saw him cook people every single week. The patience and the jets built into his legs is what made him so special. I'm not going to spend this whole video talking about him, but like, it's important context for just how good he was for this team. He was also a great wide receiver, like not just out of the backfield, as a real route runner. He was 5th on the team in receiving yards, and honestly, I think he could have done more in this area, and that's not something that's easy to replace. He is an irreplaceable player. I don't know how else to put it. It's a high standard that Aeneas Williams is going to have to live up to, and it's not fair to hold him up to that standard, but this is a player that teams only get once a decade, and you can't be sad it's over. You just have to smile because it happened. Jadarian Price was the Robin to Jeremiah Love's Batman, but it kind of feels offensive to call him that. He's way more talented than just a Robin player. This is a true example of a 1A, 1B backfield. I think Jadarian Price is elite in his own right. The main critique I had on Price was that he basically had no experience as a pass catcher, but considering they use Love as a literal wide receiver sometimes, the target opportunities just really weren't there for him. He got drafted 32nd overall to the Seahawks, and he'll finally get the chance to start. He's earned this, he deserves this, he's plenty good enough to be a starter, and I think he will shine. The other guy I'll mention here is Malachi Fields. I think he is a big weapon to replace just because of what he brought and how different it is from the other receivers on this team. He was that big body, go get it, jump ball X receiver who made CJ Carr look really good sometimes, and I think they're gonna have to find someone else who can do what Malachi Fields did. Eli Raridan, Billy Schrouth, and Gabriel Rubio also got drafted, which are obviously losses, but I don't think they're the caliber of players that the first 3 are. Schrouth is a loss on the offensive line, I'll admit that, but if there's one thing I can count on Notre Dame to do, it's to produce high-quality offensive linemen, so I worry a little bit less about that. For the transfer departures, most of Notre Dame's top talent was retained. There's really only 2 losses that I think are worth mentioning here. The first one is backup quarterback Kenny Minchey and then defensive end Joshua Barnum. Spoiler alert, we'll talk about Joshua Barnum next video, so I'll avoid this for now, but it was a weird situation with him. Kenny Minchey will be Will Stein's quarterback at Kentucky now, and I'm really excited for him. He was a pretty big recruit. He just wasn't going to have a path to playing time realistically with Notre Dame this season, and for Kentucky, he can go down there to the SEC, get paid a bag probably, and go and start for Will Stein, who's a really exciting new coach. And yeah, that wraps up the key departures. I really don't think there's anyone that they lost to the portal that's like keeping you up at night. Obviously, those 2 guys are ones that you'd like to have on your team, but they're not going to make or break Notre Dame's season unless, God forbid, CJ Carr gets hurt. On the other side, for the additions, they did add 8 players in the transfer portal, and all of them are key positions except for one that we won't talk about, and that's the kicker. He probably will be their starting kicker, but we don't cover specialists on here, so let's run through the others. They had 2 former 5-stars in Keon Keeley and Quincy Porter. Keon Keeley will be a fringe starter for this team. He's a massive 6'5", 282-pound defensive end from Alabama who really just hasn't been productive in his 2 seasons with the Tide, and I think the change of scenery is going to be good for him. You can see here he shows really solid power and awareness to get his hand up to knock down this pass very early into the game against Oklahoma. He had a weird situation at Alabama because they made him lose weight to become a linebacker and then bulk up to play defensive end, and now he'll have to slim down, I'd imagine, to fit in this scheme and get a little more explosive. He really had his moments, like the Oklahoma game was legitimately good. I think there's enough here that gets you excited to have him on the roster, but he might not be a guy that's starting on the edge day 1 based on who you have returning. Then there's the 2 Ohio State transfers in Quincy Porter and Mylan Graham. These are 2 guys I would expect to hear the names called a lot. They combined for just 10 catches for 152 yards last season, so you don't have a ton to go on, but I'll show what I can. I think Mylan Graham is a great complementary wide receiver with the chance to be a team's wide receiver 1. He played real minutes last season, like he wasn't just playing garbage time hours. I think he looked the part with his speed and quickness. He had a really nice sideline catch, I think against Wisconsin. He could separate well from what we saw. Like, I don't think this Notre Dame receiver room is deep enough before him to keep him off the field, and I think the same can be said for his former teammate in Quincy Porter. Porter is ideally the Malachi Fields replacement, 6'4", 210 pounds. He's the pluck the ball out of the air, contested catch type of receiver. He may not have the after catch ability or the separation skills that Graham has, but I think there's a role for him to play very early on for Notre Dame based on his size profile. Is he as good as Fields? Zero clue. But considering he's coming from a wide receiver factory that is Ohio State, I'd like to believe that he could measure up to that one day. Maybe it's not this season, but maybe it's next, and then we're talking about this as a huge addition for this team. Moving back to the trenches, I'll highlight Francis Brieux, who is the projected starter at defensive tackle coming over from Pitt. I don't know where Pitt keeps finding these sub 300-pound insane defensive tackle athletes, but they do, and now Notre Dame gets their hands on one of them. So he specializes in speed. You can see it here. He gets this immediate win and he's able to work the hands. Seriously, not to keep harping on it, but how does Pitt find these guys every single year? He's got a lot of strength too. Don't let the frame fool you. He plays much stronger than that. I really look forward to seeing him under this new coaching staff. He's just ruthless off the line. You can watch here as he destroys this blocker and basically solo tackles Jeremiah Love. He's got serious power, and this is the kind of piece this defensive line needed to take it to the next level. Then we get to another defensive lineman in Tioni Gray, and this is a really simple eval. He's a 6'6", 336-pound D tackle, run stuffer, early down, short yardage guy. This is something Notre Dame did not have. He's the heaviest guy on the team, and the second heaviest is a true freshman. They really needed this, and I think that he may not show up in the stats, but they'll be very happy to have him. This kind of reminds me of the Hero Canoe edition for Texas last year, which we'll talk about more later, but he's kind of an unsung, run-stuffing defensive tackle that real fans know the name of. We'll close off this with two additions to the secondary of DJ McKinney and Jaden Sanders. Poor Colorado, man, losing McKinney and Tafik Bayard. McKinney will be a redshirt senior. He's got a lot of playing experience. His best season was in 2024 when he put up 3 interceptions, a fumble recovery, and a touchdown, but he didn't finish the season in 2025, so there's an asterisk for that being his best statistical year. He will probably start at field corner opposite of Leonard Moore, and we'll talk about how this depth chart stacks up when we get to the secondary, but he's too good not to play in this defense. I don't think this is a rotational guy. I think he's got the mindset. He's a good tackler, hard-nosed athlete. I'm excited to see him in the navy and gold. I mean, he's got great instincts to follow the football. This is just the greed they talk about in the Bible, adding him to this secondary. And they did need the depth, so even if he is somehow just a depth piece, this is still a great addition, as is the final transfer we'll talk about with Jaden Sanders. Now, Jaden Sanders is more of a depth piece to me. He was a freshman at Michigan last season who looked really good at times. His snaps kind of dwindled throughout the year, which I thought was odd, but he's someone that Michigan probably wishes they could have had return. He'll be poised to have a bigger role next year. I think he knows that, and that might have been part of the pitch to get him because he is very talented and there's plenty of schools that he could start at right now. But at Notre Dame, I think he's going to have to earn every rep. He played a lot more off-zone coverage last year. I think that's something he'll have to adjust to at the school, getting more comfortable with press man and the physicality that comes with that. But this is a great get, and he raises the floor of the secondary in terms of depth. And I think that if you have to have him start, you're not complaining because he had a really good job at Michigan. That might have been the quickest transfer portal section that I've done on this series. We'll go and check the minutes later, but it's pretty simple. They got some really key pieces, whether they're depth pieces or starters. All of those guys are going to see minutes on this team, and I think they attacked the portal very strategically. I remember when it started, we were like, when is Notre Dame going to get a commit? But they all kind of started to flow in, and they were pieces that they really needed, not just like stacking guys just to have them. Now let's move on to the player section, and of course we'll start off with veteran quarterback CJ Carr, who looked pretty great as a freshman last season. I mean, he does so much well, dude. He's mechanically sound, far above where he should be for his age mentally. He's got the swag of a guy who's played for 2 or 3 years already. It's really everything you're looking for. If you've seen my TikTok review on him, a lot of this will be repeat information, but does a good job of highlighting his strengths and weaknesses. I thought it was really impressive how he handled his first 2 starts against Miami and Texas A&M. The thing that Carr does that barely any college quarterback does is execute plays under center and on true play action rollouts where his back is turned to the defense. This is probably the #1 learning curve from college to the pros, and he's a step ahead because of this. We'll talk about this a little more in the scheme section, but it's not an easy or comfortable thing for quarterbacks to do, and I think he got really good at it, and this should help him as a prospect. He shows flashes of being a really quick decision maker. Like here, he does a quick scan of the field, sees the blitz coming, he releases the ball immediately straight into it, lets the tight end pick up a big gain, but at his core, he is a gunslinger. He's got the arm to hit throws like this, and he's not afraid to do it. I do think the decision-making might need some work. Like, I get it, it's a great throw, he trusts his arm, but God, it's nerve-wracking sometimes. They'll push the ball downfield a lot, and he'll hit a lot. I don't want to make it seem like it's a bad thing, but the desire to do this will naturally come with some wild plays, like I'll show here now. I think he's great at evading pressure, but he doesn't really know what to do when he gets away from the pressure. I don't really see panic in the pocket. It's kind of outside the pocket where I question the decision-making. And these are things where it's just like you hope he improves with time, and it's reasonable to expect. I mean, this is just who he is, but you really want plays like this to go away because, dude, what are we doing? Now, this is why he does this, because sometimes they end up turning out like this. And if we get this, I don't think coach will be complaining too much. I really debated between an A and an S tier for this quarterback room because this is as fringe as it gets. I had CJ Carr as a 76.5 overall, which is right in between where I had Sam Levitt at like a 74 and I gave that room an A, and Trinidad Chambliss at a 79 and I gave that room an S. So it's like, where does he fit into this? I'm having a hard time figuring it out. I ended up going with an A because there are inconsistencies that I do think need to be cleaned up, but CJ Carr has the potential to be the best quarterback in the game this year. Like, let's get that straight. It's heavily dependent on a lot of factors we're about to talk about. The potential for him, though, is limitless. And Notre Dame fans cherish this, seriously. Like, you have not had a player with this much promise at the position in so many years. While having that good of a quarterback might be new, having generational running back talent is not, and they just lost not one, but 2 elite backs to the NFL, and they're going to replace that with Aeneas Williams, the 5'10", 200-pound bowling ball of a running back. He only has 58 touches in 2 seasons at Notre Dame, but also 18 catches for 172 yards in 2024 alone, and he's averaged over 7 yards per rush, so there's some proof of concept here. He breaks a lot of tackles. I think that's why his yards per carry was so high. He had a couple of big runs, though, like you could see him here against Navy. He has great bursts, but he's not going to pull away from people the same way that Jeremiah Love did or the other top-end backs will do. He only had 1 game with 10 carries or more last season, and that was against Stanford when Jeremiah Love was hurt. He also had a really nice catch in this game, over the shoulder, watch it in. This is what real hands at the running back position look like, not just checkdowns, and I think there's room to involve him in this way. Something to note, though, is that Williams got touches in the college football playoff as a freshman, so the staff has really believed in him, and they told him to wait around for a reason. I don't know what his full potential is, but in this scheme, I find it difficult to believe that he won't be a very good player. I won't touch too much on backups, but I do want to mention the 5'11", 242-pound running back in Kedron Young. Yes, 5'11", 242, you heard that right. He missed the entire 2025 season with an injury, so the most we've seen from him is about 100 yards in 2024, but I'm looking forward to seeing what this dude can do. My grade for this room is a B, and I've teetered between a B and a C here. I've given unproven rooms a C in this series before, but it's just tough because I am scouting the helmet a little bit. I do believe in what they have in this running back room with Aeneas Williams. I think he's good enough to be an average or above average starter, and that's a B grade for me. Obviously, he's not going to be what Jadarian Price was or Jeremiah Love was, but he doesn't have to be. I think they have a good enough offensive line, good enough scheme, good enough quarterback to where he can be a really serviceable, good running back, and hell, he might put up 1,000 yards if they give him 200, 250 carries. Next, we'll move on to the wide receiver room, and it's interesting. I think they have a really good mix of experience and young talent. They returned their top target from last year in Jordan Faison, who I think is a very talented athlete. This will be his first year in his college career where he's entirely focused on football since he was playing lacrosse before, so you'd hope he could dial in on the technical aspects of his game. Right now, he's a yards after catch weapon. He's got so much juice, like you hold your breath when he touches the ball. A recent comp for him I have is someone like Casey Concepcion from last year, who is very well-rounded, but he excelled at creating yards in space. I don't want to group him in as a gadget guy, though. Like, he's shown that he can make plays all over the field, but you'd be lying if you didn't say you just want to try to get the ball in his hands and see what he can do, because he's electric. Something I'd like to see is him play more in the slot this year. I think he has what it takes to be lethal there. He didn't play nearly as many slot snaps as I expected for someone like him before watching him last season, and I think his production could skyrocket by mixing some of that in. He's smaller, just 5'10", 180 pounds, so now that he's fully focused on football and not playing lacrosse, you think he might be able to add on some more weight, but regardless, I think he'll probably lead the team in targets and yards again, even with Westlake's own Jaden Greathouse maybe returning to the lineup. I think for Notre Dame fans, when it comes to a player, this is probably the most disappointing from last season. After the 2024 college football playoff, I think expectations were very high for him. This was a decently touted recruit from a Texas football powerhouse in Westlake. He had about 600 yards as a true sophomore, but a lot of that production was from the playoffs. I mean, 13 catches, 232 yards, and 3 touchdowns against Penn State and Ohio State. That's not an easy feat. I thought he looked like the best player on the field at times in those games, but unfortunately, he could not shake the injury bug in 2025, shutting his season down after week 4 to preserve a season of eligibility, and I don't blame him, but it still sucks. Greathouse is not the same yak threat that Faison is, but he's a different kind because he's built bigger, like 6'1", 210 pounds. He kind of moves like a running back. He'll run through tackles. You'll notice me mention this a few times, but they really have built a roster where the different archetypes in each position group complement each other so well. I think the hope is that he can pick up from where he left off in 2024, but that's easier said than done. I mean, Greathouse is one of the reasons I had such a hard time giving this unit a grade, because we've seen what he can be. If you tap into January 2025 Jaden Greathouse, then the ceiling of the room is heavily raised, but we don't know what he will be coming off this injury, and apparently he got injured again in spring camp. I'll give a quick mention to Micah Gilbert, only 9 catches for 93 yards and a touchdown last year, but he's in competition with the 2 Ohio State transfers to be that third guy on the field if Greathouse is healthy. He played in 10 games last year. He has seniority here, but we'll have to see if he's talented enough to carve out a big role for himself. He obviously had the nonchalant touchdown against Miami, where CJ Carr worked his magic and then found him just chilling in the end zone. but I think he's primarily a big body possession type of receiver. We haven't seen enough yet for me to say he'll be a 50-50 ball winner, but I'd imagine at his frame, that's kind of what you're hoping he can develop into. But he can do a lot more than just catch the ball and fall down. Like, he has some good yak ability too. Overall, I'd expect him to work his way into the lineup as this type of player. Now, will it be him or the Ohio State guys or a healthy rotation? We'll find out, but either way, they've got the dudes and the schedule to where they can try out every possible combination until they find one that they like. I'm gonna go out on a limb here and grade this receiver room in A. I'm kind of banking on Jaden Greathouse coming back and being healthy, but regardless, they have a lot of talent here, and I think Jordan Faison is a very good player. He can be a wide receiver 1 like Concepcion was for the Aggies last season, and then I think you brought in enough talent to the portal and what you have in Micah Gilbert and some of the other guys on that roster. I'm comfortable giving this room an A. Notre Dame fans, let me know what you think in the comments. I will take this time to kindly ask you to like the video. A little football will appear when you do it, and subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying the content. We put out videos like this around every 10 days or so up until the season starts, and then we'll switch into doing game predictions and previews. Now let's discuss the offensive line, and there's one true newcomer. We'll start with him since we can go quickly here. The first is projected starter at left tackle, Will Black. He's a redshirt freshman. He has no bio on Notre Dame's website, and the only thing I know about him is that he was a 4-star recruit out of high school, but he's relatively new to the game of football. I believe he played hockey for most of his life. Notre Dame battled hard with Michigan to get him, and now he has his chance to start, so best of luck to him. I know Notre Dame fans online are very excited to see what they have here. He's massive, I think like 6'7", 305 pounds, so best of luck to the guy. I hope he's good. We'll see what happens. Now, even though he's the only brand new starter, the rest are either coming back from injuries or changing positions, so we do have some new starters in the mix in other ways as well. The first one I'll mention is Anthony Knapp, who will be sliding inside from left tackle to left guard. I think this is good for him. He's more naturally a guard than he is a tackle. I think he looked confident in pass protection. I just don't know if he has the quick twitch athleticism you'd want at tackle. He's very strong though. I think he's gonna excel in that mauling role where he can just get up and go rather than having to play a finesse game. The opposite of that, though, is the guy they're moving from right guard to right tackle in Guerry Lambert. Guerry Lambert is a really intriguing tackle because of the athleticism. You can see the speed off the ball, the ability to adjust to the play and work to the defender in this rep. I thought he looked really solid at guard, but I'm excited to see what he can do at tackle. He's got a strong anchor, powerful hands. The only thing he's gonna have to really adjust to is the speed off the edge, but let's face it, there aren't many rushers that scare me for the majority of the schedule. They returned basically a starter at center in Ashton Craig, but he did tear his ACL for the second time last season, so we don't know what it's gonna look like for him going forward. He's another guy that I think is really talented. I think Notre Dame wants him on the field in any way possible, and according to reports, he'll be good to go. If it's not him, it'll most likely be Joe Otting, but based on the tape, this is the guy you really want starting. I think he's talented. I hope he stays healthy so I can actually do a full eval on him rather than just a few games early in the season. The final projected starter is Charles Jagusaw, who's in a similar boat to Ashton Craig. He's technically a new starter, but he's been on the team for a few years now, only playing sparingly when healthy. He's had an up and down career injury-wise, and I hope he can stay healthy and finally put it all together this season. Consensus top 120 recruit in high school, 6'5", 330 pounds. If this guy works out, this line is absolutely nasty. He's just been a really sad story due to injury. I think it's more of the myth of Charles Jagusaw at this point. If it's not him starting at right guard, it'll be redshirt junior Sullivan Absher, who does have starting experience. He played the final 5 games of the season last year and wears number 75. You'll see him throughout the video. But you really want Jagusaw to work out if possible to raise this offensive line to its ceiling. I teetered between an A and a B here. I think that the potential we're talking about is an S tier unit. Production-wise, we're looking at a B tier unit. So I opted to go with an A since that's kind of somewhere in between the two, and I do think they're very good. They're very talented. If they are healthy, we're talking about a Joe Moore Award finalist, one of the best offensive lines in college football. To me, that's an A grade, regardless of some of the injury risk that we're taking with these guys. Finally, for the offense, we'll talk the tight end room. I'll keep it pretty quick. This room is a total mystery box. We have a duo of Flanagans, which is very fitting for the Fighting Irish, but they've combined for 5 career catches. So Cooper Flanagan, who you're watching now, did start at tight end for a few games in 2024, and he appeared in 13, but he missed all of 2025 with an injury. When you move on to Ty Washington, there's a bit more production here. He started his career at Arkansas, where he caught about 15 passes in 3 years, 5 catches for 34 yards and a touchdown last season. He played in 12 games last season. He started in 4, and just like the other guys, he's played, but there's no real proof of production in the passing game. And then finally, there's James Flanagan, who just like the other guys, he's played, but there's no real proof of production in the passing game. And this offense likes to use the tight end in that way, so he'll have to show us something. With how much Notre Dame runs the ball, you'd expect a lot of 12 personnel, and they do run it sometimes, but when it comes to the passing game, they really only target one tight end. You had Eli Raridan last season, who had about 500 yards receiving, and then the second closest was Ty Washington with just 34 yards. So one of these guys will have to step up. I just can't tell you who it is, and that leads me into the grade. I haven't done this in the series before, and this will probably be the only time I do it, I'm giving this grade incomplete because I don't know what to do. These guys have no proof of production. We've seen them on the field blocking at times, but like there's not a lot to go off of here. And I'm not just gonna randomly assign a grade to something that I don't know about. Notre Dame fans, let me know in the comments, what do we expect from this tight end room? Because from what I've seen online too, there aren't high expectations for it, and I think it's considered one of the weaker units on the team. For the offense overall, I'm going to give them an A grade. I think you have pretty much A's all around. You got a great quarterback, you got a great offensive line, you got a great receiving core, you have a good but unproven running back room, and then a completely unproven tight end room. This is a good offense. I don't think I'm ready to put them in the S tier. Even if CJ Carr could be an S tier quarterback, I don't think this receiver room touches the S tier for me. There was really no debate in my mind about doing that. I think they're good. I just don't think there's one guy that's like elite that's gonna elevate CJ Carr. Obviously, you have a great player in Jordan Faison, but there's not like a Cam Coleman, Jeremiah Smith type of player who's gonna make a quarterback right even when he's wrong, if that makes any sense. Now we'll move on to the defense and start off with the defensive line. We already talked about some of the trench help that they added inside with Francis Brew from Pitt and Tioni Gray from Oregon, but there's another returning starter in Jason Onyé that I will highlight. He's a fifth-year player coming back from presumably his last season with the Irish, and he's the exact veteran that you want anchoring this defense with the transfer guys coming in. I think he's strong with his hands, he's got good technique. You'd expect that as a fifth-year player, that he'd be technically refined, but I do think he could still get stronger. I think he wins quick a lot, as he does here, and he's got enough speed and length to get to the runner, and he makes it a minimal gain, but I just don't see him like moving guys with power all the time. Here's an example of him getting up and moving though, converting some speed to power, rushing the passer. He only had 1.5 sacks last season, which if you've listened to me a lot, you know that I really don't care about stats as a defensive tackle, but I think he could produce more this year, especially with the guys that are gonna be playing around him. One final play for good measure, showing off some of the strength on the move and athleticism. He may not anchor against double teams on duo, but when he's asked to get off of blocks and stack and shed against lateral running plays, he can get that done. Leading the edge room is Boubacar Traore, who had a really great season in 2025 despite coming off of an ACL tear. I think he profiles as like a late day 2 guy for the NFL right now, but I could really see him turning it up this year and playing himself much higher. He's a very composed player, he's very disciplined, you can see it here. He has a great get off, he beats this tackle, but he's still disciplined enough to keep contained, and he ends up capitalizing on it with a sack. Here he does the same thing on a read option. He forces CJ Bailey to cut back inside where the rest of the defense is, playing as a unit. He's got real athleticism though. I mean, he can change direction super fast, and he does it with a good frame too, like 6'4", 250 pounds. If you wanna watch my full review on TikTok or YouTube Shorts, you can do that, but you can see the speed and change of direction here to chase down this runner at the line. I do think his strength can continue to improve. I just don't think I ever saw him like burst past someone and just move tackles with power. Like I said, I've done the full review. I don't want to spend the whole video on him since I have broken him down before, but I really do like him. I just question if this is the guy who's going to be able to take over a game. I think he's a 7-8 sack type of player, maybe 10 if you get some coverage sacks in there and he gets lucky, but I want to see more power and explosion from him. On the other side of Traore is Bryce Young, and if Traore is the high floor, maybe lower ceiling type of player, Young is the high ceiling, low floor type of guy. He's a true junior, 6'7", 273 pounds. He played some outside reps, he played some interior reps, but he is just a giant ball of clay still. He has so much mass that he's really hard to move. He's got this ridiculous frame, and it's comical to watch him take on blockers sometimes. There's still a lot of work to be done rushing the passer. Like, I'd like to see more explosion and power from his game too. At his size, it needs to happen. When you watch him play, it's just like, man, I really hope this addition of defensive line coach Charlie Partridge can help him unlock the next level of his game, because he really does have the tools to be a monster. He's just gonna have to put in a lot of work to achieve that, and I think he can. Overall, I'm gonna give this defensive line unit a B. I think there's enough talent to give this room a high floor, but a capped ceiling. Now, could Bryce Young explode? Sure, but I'm not gonna bank on that happening. I think it's a good group. You have Traore, who's for sure a future NFL player, and then I think you have a couple more guys on this line that will be NFL players too. It's a really solid unit, which is why I'm giving it a B. There's just not a guy who elevates it to an A for me. Then we move on to the linebackers, and it's a little different with this room. We'll start off with Drake Bowen, who's the leader of the linebacker room. He led the team in tackles last season. He's built more like a traditional Mike, about 6'2", 240 pounds. As I mentioned before, I think their run defense was good because of the work of these linebackers, particularly Drake Bowen. I use this term a lot for linebackers, but he is the see ball, get ball type of player. Give him a line, tell him blow it up, and he's gonna do exactly that. I think he's smart though. He reads the play well, he takes the right running lanes. I do think he struggles in space. It's not like, wow, he's a liability, but it certainly isn't always pretty, and I think he's a bit stiff. You can see it here. If you get him lined up with a shifty running back, stuff like this can happen. I don't think he's bad in coverage. Like here he's on an island with the back and he actually keeps up just fine. I just don't think he's a great enough athlete to make up for getting put in bad positions out in space, like the play I showed before. They also blitz him a lot. There are times where he'll line up as a stand-up rusher and even just straight up rush the passer. He's pretty good at this. I think it's a true plus to his game, and it's something I expect to continue to see him develop this year. He's a very good linebacker, and this is the guy that you want as a team captain. I think he raises the ceiling of the Notre Dame defense up the middle. Now the next guy is more the hyper-athletic, better in space type of player, and that's Jaden Ausberry. He plays the will linebacker role for the defense, and even though he's a bit smaller than Drake Bowen, I don't think he plays like it. He's really good at fighting through traffic, getting off of blocks. I didn't see him bust many assignments. He can fill the run just as good as a guy who's 10 pounds heavier, dare I say. I think he's the better player of the two, and maybe I'm way off base here. I really liked what I saw from Ausberry. I think he has excellent eyes into the backfield. He has the speed to chase down running backs with ease. You can see in this block, he's really good at taking on blocks and disengaging. He plays on fire, and I feel like the fight just never stops with him. The hands never stop. The strength and speed just really pop for me. He's an aggressive linebacker in the best way possible. If he sees an open gap, he will charge it, and he plays confident, as you see here. I think that's one of the best ways to explain these Notre Dame defenders is confidence, and that's a testament to the players, of course, but also to this coaching staff for letting these guys play free. Then technically backing up Bowen and Ausberry are Jalen Sneed and Kingston Valiuma Asa, or as we will affectionately call him, KVA. They're both very good players in their own right. This linebacker room is just so deep. I think it's a toss-up between them and LSU for the best in the country. I have backing up in quotes because these guys played just about as many snaps as the other two, and sometimes Sneed even started over Ausberry. Jalen Sneed is absolutely no slouch. I don't know what's in the water in South Bend, but all of these guys can shed blocks better than 95% of college linebackers that I've watched. They also like to get all four of them on the field together sometimes, especially in heavy packages like you see here. Surprise, surprise, we can see he plays with good patience, good eyes, good physicality to just kind of swim through blockers and tackle the ball carrier in combination with Drake Bowen. Watching these backers play, it's awesome, man. It's teach tape. The final guy in this unit is our good friend KVA, another great linebacker. I think he shines most in the box as a run defender, not necessarily as much in pass coverage. Doesn't mean he's bad, I just think he's really strong in the other areas. He's also really good off the edge. I think he shows true flashes as a pass rusher. Not saying he'll ever be a defensive end, but it's a skill set that he's really good at, and I know this play is a touchdown, but he works these guys, and Beck just kind of makes a good play. Here's another example where they have these guys on the field together at once, and KVA is playing off the edge. You can see the speed off the ball to get into the backfield and pull down Mark Fletcher, which is not easy to do. Naturally, I have this room graded in the S tier. I don't think that comes as a surprise to anybody. All four of the guys getting action complement each other really well, and when you get that deep and not have a drop-off, that's an impressive thing. Then they're followed up by another elite unit with the Notre Dame secondary, and this one probably is the best in the country in my opinion. I'm gonna plant my flag here. It is the best secondary in college football because it's led by the best corner in college football with Leonard Moore. He is freaking legit. He's another one that I've done a full review on, so if you want to see that, you can go check it out. But I think he should be a top 10, maybe even top 5 lock in next year's draft. He's a boundary corner. He'll typically line up on one side of the field, or in certain occasions, he'll shadow the opposing team's wide receiver 1 like he did with Mekhi Lemon at USC last year. And I think he won that battle. I mean, I think he is the best corner in the sport. I can't really find a flaw in his game. Originally, my review of him, I said that the speed maybe isn't the best, but then people told me to watch him in the national championship game, and while I don't think he's the fastest guy ever, it's not a problem. Obviously, he's elite in man coverage, which you have to be to succeed in this defensive scheme, but it's not just here. I mean, he's a smart player too. He has such a feel for concepts and spacing. Like this one, Concepcion gets behind him, and he's no longer worried about covering him. He just knows the ball is going his way, and he has the chance at an interception, and he almost pulls it in one-handed. This is one of those players where I would give this unit an S-tier grade based on him alone. He's the best at his position in the sport. I can't wait to see what he brings to the table. He's elite. Now, opposite of him is up for debate. There will be competition between the two transfers we talked about earlier and veteran Christian Gray, who I know Notre Dame fans have very mixed opinions on. On one hand, Christian Gray knows the system, he has a lot of experience, and he's shown flashes of brilliance on tape like you're watching here. But unfortunately, he's also shown flashes of being burnt toast and letting up massive plays in key moments and just straight up bad reps. Half the time, these are within just a few plays from each other. He's just such an inconsistent player. I thought he had a lot of reps getting just fried. Typically with corners, fans will get all mad, and I'm quick to defend them and say it's the hardest position in the sport. You have to cut them some slack. When they mess up, everyone's going to see it if you're playing against a good quarterback. But with Gray, he's kind of on a thin leash for me. It'll be interesting to see what happens with him this year. I think the story for this offseason is going to be what happens at the nickel position, because Christian Gray could end up seeing himself here, and that might not be the worst thing. If it's not Gray in the nickel spot, then I think it will probably go to Colorado transfer DJ McKinney, who we talked about earlier. Regardless, McKinney, Gray, and Sanders will all be competing for a starting role. This room is deep, but it's not necessarily set. What is set though are the back two, with redshirt junior Adon Schuler and sophomore Tay Johnson leading that room. And I'll start with Schuler since he's the more experienced and he's awesome to watch. I mean, truly, if you like watching these big, strong safeties that love to hit, turn on some Adon Schuler. He fills the run really well. He's about 6 foot, 210 pounds, and he hits like a Mack truck. He can play the run like a linebacker. It's the type of talent that changes the math for a defense because you can run 4-2-5 personnel and not sacrifice anything. It's not just in the box though, he can stretch plays to the sideline. From what I watched, he takes really good angles, he'll hawk down the ball carrier, and he's a hitter. Maybe not to Marcus Cooley levels of what drugs is he on, but he'll bring it. I mean, he definitely has a spot on my college football hardest hitters list for this season. I will say, he is a big, strong safety. I don't think his coverage skills are the greatest, and I wouldn't call him a liability, but like, he's not as good as the next guy that we're going to talk about, and he doesn't have to be, because Tay Johnson is that dude, and he allows Schuler to play more of his natural spot in a box defender role and cover up some of the deficiencies. Tay Johnson was a true freshman last season, but he worked his way into being a starter by the end of the year. He's the guy that can be the single high player in cover one, and they run quite a bit of that. Not to say he can't hit, he for sure can, but I think he's the better coverage player compared to Schuler. He showed off some incredible instincts for a young player. You can watch it here as he jumps this route playing as the hook defender in a cover three look. For a freshman to see this, anticipate the throw, and then have the athletic ability to house it, yeah, there's a lot to be excited about with him. He can crash downhill too. Like I said earlier, I think that Schuler is slightly better against the run and Johnson is slightly better against the pass, but they complement each other very well. And while Johnson isn't draft eligible and I didn't grade him, I think by the end of the season, we might view Johnson as the better player. So yeah, this duo is fantastic. I can't think of many that I'd rather have when you factor in both of their talents. They're both very versatile players, and I wish I had time to cover some of the depth in the room, but it's tough to do that when the top end talent is probably not coming off the field unless it's to rotate, and you don't want to take these two off. Naturally, my grade for the secondary is an S, and if it could be an S+, I would do it. I would love to hand that out. I think we're looking at the best secondary in the sport, if not at least top 5. I was very tempted to hand out an S tier grade to the defense as a whole, but I opted to go with an A just because I do think the defensive line holds them back a little bit. I think that interior is still up for questions. I think that it's fair to question the interior. They did do some work in the portal, but we'll see how those guys gel within this defensive scheme. And then on the edge, I think you have a really talented player with Bryce Young who just hasn't put it together. And then Boubacar Traore, who's great, but I don't think he's the player that's gonna lift this defense for me. And maybe I'm wrong, I could be totally wrong. He is coming back from that ACL tear. We'll see what happens. I'm still gonna give this defense an A tier though, because I think they are very good and you have the best secondary in the sport. Now moving on to the scheme section, we'll start with the defense since I do think that is the strong suit of this team. Chris Ash is the defensive coordinator. He does call the plays, even though Marcus Freeman has a big influence on the defense. He was under some fire last season for letting up 40 points to Texas A&M to start and just looking kind of shaky, but I think they pulled it together a lot by the end of the year, and I think that he'll have a really good roster to work with going into this season that we just talked about. This section will be super quick. There's not much crazy stuff to cover. Their base personnel is a 4-2-5. They run a lot of man coverage, more than most teams in the sport. And part of the reason they run so much man is because they have the athletes to do it. It takes real talent at corner and linebacker to be able to pull this off, which most teams just don't have in comparison to the wide receiver talent that they're going to be playing against. They will run Tampa 2 and cover 3 as well. Cover 3 is what you're seeing now. So they're not exclusively man, but they run it so much that I will say that it's their primary coverage. Here's another example of a zone coverage look, which is just as effective as their man looks because they have those ball hawking safeties that we discussed earlier that have the instincts and athleticism to pull off stuff like this. No matter what they're running, you can count on them being in the right place at the right time. Now, man coverage can come in different packages, obviously, but typically they'll run straight cover 1 with a single high safety. They will often blitz out of this too, which I'll talk about in a second, but they really just tell you, spot the ball and we're gonna lock you up. Now, the dangers of man coverage are if one guy messes up, it's a big play waiting to happen. These man-to-man football teams often let up a lot of explosives because that's the nature of the defense. You get all or nothing, no dink and dunk down the field like so many teams are prone to doing, but you also let up explosives, and that's what happened against Texas A&M. To generate pressure, they don't do anything wild. They'll blitz, like they're not a passive defense, but a lot of coverage sacks end up coming out of plays like this, where they take away all your options with elite coverage, and that creates enough time for these defensive linemen and linebackers to get home. They ran a lot of 3 down lineman fronts with a linebacker lined up at defensive end, and you'll see here they blitz the middle linebacker to try and create instant pressure. There's not much on tape like Mike Elko's fire zones or Bryant Haynes style simulated pressures. It's more just straight up aggression, man blitzes, sending 5 or 6 in hopes of overwhelming your protection. Anything interesting on this defense is happening on the front end, not the back end, which thank God, because it's so much easier to explain that and comprehend than unique coverage packages. They would also run 5-man fronts, obviously not 5 down linemen, but 5 guys at the line of scrimmage to have extra bodies to stop the run. or to confuse the protection by dropping somebody back if it's a pass. I chose this Pitt game though because I feel like it does a good job of showing the fancy stuff they'll do. This was the most I really saw from them in all the games I watched. Here we're gonna see a 5-man front. There's only 3 down linemen, and we actually have 2 mug linebackers on the left side. What we get here is one massive loop from KVA and another loop from Traore. Traore is essentially going to force Heinschel to roll out, since in theory this side should be free of any traffic, but they timed this up perfectly, and then KVA is waiting right there for him thanks to his speed and athleticism. On this play, you'll see a really weird alignment where we get this 5 technique, this rusher basically standing up straight in the overhang. I don't even know what to call this. And then we get these 2 tackles tight. The 2 tackles are going to slant to clear a line for Osbury to fly in unblocked and almost force a pick 6. It's nothing crazy, it's just very effective. The final thing they do are these delayed blitzes with the safety. It's just another wrinkle they throw at you in terms of this attacking style of defense. And then we get to stopping the run, and for that, they have rock solid linebackers like we talked about earlier. I'm going to touch on it again though, they are really damn good. No diss to Texas A&M, but watch all 4 of these guys and then go and watch the A&M video and watch their linebackers. It's a night and day difference in terms of discipline, gap integrity, getting off of blocks, mirroring running backs. It's night and day. So yeah, I hate to keep this simple for you Notre Dame fans, but it kind of is. I for sure am oversimplifying the defense. Like if we got down to the details, I bet there's a lot of checks on the field, a lot of options for pressure looks within each front. But when we're looking at it from a bird's eye view, there's only a few things you need to know. If they're bringing pressure, it's most likely going to be a man blitz with one of the linebackers or a delayed blitz from the safety. These packages are designed to either make you take a sack because nothing is open downfield, or you got to throw the ball into harm's way and hope your receiver can make a play. They're running cover 1, cover 2 man, Tampa 2, or cover 3. I don't really recall watching much else, although I'm sure some of these reps are cover 6 or cover 8 at one point or another. Ultimately though, this defense wins by guys doing their job, staying in their lane, making plays, and playing with a team-first mentality, and it works. Marcus Freeman has this unit on fire. Finally, let's cover the offense. I think we need to get this out of the way. Mike Denbrock is a very adaptable coach. None of his offenses ever look exactly the same. Obviously, there's fundamentals that come over, and we'll talk about those, but he really does adapt to his personnel. He was with the Irish under a previous Brian Kelly regime before following him to LSU. And then at LSU, he had the pleasure of coaching Jaden Daniels to a Heisman Trophy, where they had one of the best offenses in the nation, so he's a very accomplished play caller. CJ Carr is not Jaden Daniels as a runner, but the ceiling of a Denbrock coached offense is a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback. I said this before, but he changes up the scheme based on personnel. He's not really a stubborn coordinator. They ran the ball at around 55% of the time last season, and while he'll still want to run the rock, I might expect that to drop just a little bit without the stable of NFL running backs at his disposal, and he might put this in his now veteran quarterback's hands a bit more. For their personnel and formations, they run a lot of stacked receiver sets to get the ball out to the playmakers on the perimeter. This is where I would hope that Jordan Faison gets all of the touches next year. They're not out here trying to stretch the defense to the sideline. You're not going to see a lot of this super wide receiver splits like we saw in the Ole Miss and LSU videos. I'm not going to call this pro style. It's still a spread offense. It's just not a wide choice offense. They run a good mix of balanced and unbalanced sets in my opinion. Yes, you'll see a lot of trips formations. They like to run the ball out of this when they can take advantage of a light box. What offense doesn't? If I had to pick one thing to be prepared for though, it's this, just standard 11 personnel, 1 receiver to the boundary and 2 to the field. But you'll notice they are not stretched to the sideline. They're within the hash marks, which for most high-powered college offenses, this is not really normal. We see another example of 11 personnel here with the tight end in the slot. We have 2 receivers on each side, but of course one of them is the tight end. They run this formation quite a bit, but of course they'll move the tight end around to inline roll if they don't like the look they're getting. Something that surprised me based on the stats and based on Mike Denbrock's coaching history is that they play a fair amount of 12 personnel. It makes sense from a scheme perspective. If you want to be a run-heavy team, you want to get bodies on the field, but they really like to use multiple tight ends in the blocking game and not necessarily the passing game. One of the key aspects of his offense, though, is the use of the tight end. They have 1 guy involved in the passing game, and that's it. We mentioned that earlier. This guy will move around a lot. He'll line up in the slot, in the backfield, in line, out wide, and move within that. He wants to get the ball to this player in short yardage situations too. This is a really creative play here against Pitt. We're going to get a 2 tight end set with Jordan Faison lined up next to Eli Raridon. Faison's going to motion over and basically run a clear out, and it's 3rd and 1. It's Notre Dame. You expect them to give the ball to Jeremiah Love. So when Raridon comes over to block, this looks like split zone, and then he's going to leak out with nobody on him because they crash down expecting him to block them. And we take advantage of Pitt selling out to stop the run, and we pick up a 1st down. Here's another example of them liking to get the tight end the ball in short yardage situations. This one is later in the game. It's really simple. We're just going to get a rub route between the receiver and the tight end, but I want to show you the emphasis they put on getting these guys picking up the hard yards. Now, all of this is really interesting because up until his tenure at Notre Dame, he leaned into the wide receiver alignments more. I think like 4 years ago, I would have been having a very different conversation about him with his personnel and his formations. This is why I said he's an adaptable coach, because he put emphasis on more 12 personnel, condensing his sets, incorporating more play action, which we'll get to. One of the things, though, that has not changed is his running game. They are a zone-heavy scheme. They run that and almost only that, and it's not just zone runs, it is inside zone in particular. Now, of course, they'll throw little wrinkles in, but it is what it is. We discussed this in the LSU video, but the zone running game seeks to get offensive linemen all flowing in one direction, attacking an area of the field. If there's a man there, great, get him. If there's not, you work to the second level or double team the closest guy. This is why sometimes I feel like inside zone kind of looks like duo, because you'll get a lot of these natural combo blocks because of the blocking rules, but it is not duo. Duo is a gap scheme run, and we'll dive into that over the next few videos. They'll run counter as well. This is when you'll see them bringing more tight ends on the field, getting into 12 personnel looks. But when you have a running back that can do this, your running game becomes very effective no matter what you call. But once again, this is where the tight end comes in, because they really prioritize him in the passing game, but also as a blocker. And you'll see him motion in over here, then lead the way for Jeremiah Love with a really nice block. And yes, this is duo, not inside zone. And of course, the guy who coached Jaden Daniels will run the quarterback. One of the ways they do this is with the zone read, which goes way back to Denbrock's first days as a college football coach. Generally, we're gonna read the defensive end. If he crashes down on the play, as the quarterback, we keep the ball. If he stays home, we hand this off. Now, Boise's linebackers just do a great job here, because if Carr handed this ball off, I think it turns into a huge gain. Honestly, Carr makes a mistake, but the linebackers are there to cover it up. They will use design quarterback runs as well, commonly in the red zone, although honestly, I'd like to see more creative ways to get CJ Carr involved in the running game. That's something I think they need to improve. He's got the frame, he's got the speed. Let him tote it a couple times a game and see what happens. While the running game is fairly simple, they do feature a lot of variety in their passing game, and some of these are unique concepts that they do that other college football teams really aren't doing as much of. Of course, they use the quick game, they use screens, they get the ball out fast, but I don't want to focus on that. I want to spend more time talking on what's unique and actually different from other teams on this list. The key thing here is that they dabble in the play action passing game, and this is play action light, there's no rollout, but for a split second, CJ Carr's back is actually turned to the defense, and that's not something that many college quarterbacks are doing on a game-to-game basis. They had a lot of design rollouts even without the play action piece, especially in the red zone, and it was a core piece of their offense, and you can see why. If you want to see a little more of that, you can go watch the CJ Carr full review. I talk about this a bit more. They also run a lot of flood concepts on these plays, like you can see here. They have the shallow route from the back, they have the deep route from the slot receiver, then they have the streak outside. Obviously, this puts the zone defense in conflict, and they take advantage of it with a wide open player. Here's another one where CJ Carr throws a perfect pass on this quick out while on the run. I do think he had misses here, though. As a quarterback, I think he needs to improve throwing on the run, especially with how much they want to do it. They also utilize a lot of spot routes. They're willing to take the easy profits, but a lot of these plays are CJ Carr still going through a possession. They're not just drawing up a one-read hitch like you see Ole Miss do. Now, they don't run a lot of empty sets, at least in the games that I watched, but when they do, they will run a lot of bunch sets, and they'd get Jeremiah Love running routes out of this. They will toss the rock, though, and that's a natural transition into the downfield passing game from this team. I think CJ Carr is the perfect quarterback for Mike Denbrock because he has zero fear of executing the downfield passing game. They'll run a lot of four verts, deep posts, anything to let Carr uncork it and bank on one of these playmakers going up and getting it like you see here. I mean, we see it 2 plays in a row. They will test man coverage. I actually don't know if they scheme up the best man beaters. I think when they get man-to-man, they want to test you one-on-one and just straight up run the ball. We get man coverage here, and what they're going to do is run a slot fade to Jaden Greathouse, and he's almost going to come down with this with 2 feet in bounds. They love the slot fade, and I don't blame them. It's a great man-beating route, but it is their go-to hot route. And oh look, next play, what do we get? Another nuke downfield. I know Arkansas wasn't the best passing defense of all time, but this game was just disrespectful with how they were testing them every single play. So in my opinion, the offense prioritizes 3 different things, and they kind of go in stages. They want to run the ball, they want to use the quick game, but more over the middle to the tight end. And the third one that they want to do is stretch the field. They want to push it downfield, slot fades, post, goes, anything they can do to let CJ Carr really use his arm strength. CJ Carr isn't scared to throw over the middle of the field, but I don't think they run a lot of routes there. I didn't see a lot of deep overs, didn't see a lot of crossers. I know I keep mentioning that, didn't see a lot of digs. They really try to stick to the sidelines, and if they are throwing over the middle, they kind of keep it more shallow. Not saying he can't hit those, there's examples of him doing it on tape, but I don't think it's what Mike Denbrock really wants this offense to be, the identity. I would expect to see them lean a little more on CJ Carr's arm this year due to the loss of those running backs. I think Carr has the talent to do it. When the quarterback is the best player on the offense, you probably want the ball in his hands, and you want him testing the defense, and I think that Carr can. So now that we've done the preview of everything on this team, let's go through this schedule predictions. And This, like the rest of the video, is pretty simple. There's not a lot to talk about here because they might have the easiest schedule of any team in college football not named Texas Tech. Now, Marcus Freeman has lost to Marshall and Northern Illinois during his tenure, so I don't want to say that any of these games are guaranteed wins. They're definitely not. They could lose them, but let's be realistic for this. I'm not going to pick any crazy upsets here. We'll go through the schedule game by game. They start off against Rice, easy win, no comments here. They play Michigan State next, who's a Big Ten bottom feeder for the past few years. Under Pat Fitzgerald, this team could look different, but I'm still gonna give them a win here. I don't see Michigan State beating Notre Dame in this first season. Then they go on the road to play at Purdue, and if they lose this, bro, I don't know what to say. Then they get to travel to North Carolina to play Bill Belichick's Tar Heels, and this just gives the vibes of like a 60-10 beatdown. I think they win easily. Then they play Stanford, and as a guy who grew up a Stanford fan, it pains me to say this, but yeah, Notre Dame is winning like 45-7, 45-13 maybe. We could give me a 14, but yeah, it's a win for Notre Dame. Then they go to BYU, and this one is interesting. It is in Provo, it's at night, and if there's a game outside of Miami that they could lose, this would be the one. I think Kalani Sitake has his eyes on this game, and this is the chance for BYU to make their case for the playoff that they didn't have last year outside of playing Texas Tech and losing. I still think Notre Dame wins, but it will be a cool game to break down. I could see this being both teams going into it undefeated, and there could be some high stakes with this, but I think Notre Dame pulls it off, and it might not end up being close. I think they probably win by 2 scores. Then they play Navy at Gillette Stadium, and this should be a win. Although Navy can make teams uncomfortable, I don't really see it happening here. Then they get Miami at home, and we'll break this down on the channel the week before depending on where these teams are at, but this should be absolute cinema. At night in South Bend, I think both of these teams will be evenly tested at this point. Miami has that road game against Clemson, Notre Dame has that road game against BYU, so I think both of them have that kind of like fringe good team road game that they're gonna have to survive before they get to play each other. But I do think Notre Dame walks away with a loss. I think that Miami wins, and part of the reason I'm saying that is because up until this point, I don't know if Notre Dame will have seen any team with the physicality and talent that Miami is going to bring. Despite all that though, I do think that it's a coin flip. You could tell me Miami wins by 7 or Notre Dame wins by 7 and I'd believe you just the same. I think I just have more faith in the roster and I have more faith in what Miami's gonna have seen before this. I really like Darian Mensah. I love his connection with Barkate. I won't get into it too much since this video isn't about Miami, but they are legit and they're gonna push this team to the limits. Regardless though, you don't wanna miss this game. Whatever you're doing at 6:30 p.m. on November 7th, cancel your plans, sit down, watch this football game. This one is gonna be electric and I truly think it could go either way. After Miami though, they get a come down against Boston College, easy win. And the final game I think that could make them sweat is SMU. And SMU is gonna be ready to go. When you look at their schedule, they should have at most 1 loss in my opinion. Like the only game I could really see them losing is Cal. And if they win that, they could come into South Bend undefeated and beating Notre Dame is their ticket to the college football playoff. I do think this ends up being kind of a Penn State playoff game situation for SMU though, and Notre Dame wins by a couple of scores. I don't know, maybe SMU comes in here and shocks them. That wouldn't really surprise me. But if you asked me today and made me pick, I'm taking Notre Dame to win this game and probably by 10 or 14. The thing about this game though is that it will end up being a ranked win for the Irish. Even though not all ranked wins are created equal, I think we all know this, it will technically count as one. So when it comes time to the playoff committee, ranking them within the top 13, I guess that would be their argument. And then finally, they end the year at Syracuse. This should be a win, and Notre Dame ends up going 11-1. And with that, they will almost certainly be in the college football playoff because of the worst rule in mankind. If they are ranked in the top 13, they're guaranteed a spot in the playoff, just an auto bid, just because of their ranking. So obviously the committee could just rank them 14 and then we'd get around this, but realistically, you're not gonna do that because every season they're gonna be 11-1 or 12-0. If they go 10-2 with this schedule, I don't think they make it, and I don't think they should. I think you get 1 loss. You could lose to either BYU, SMU, or Miami, and you're in. If you lose any of those other games, we seriously have to question that because these teams are all bottom feeders in their conference, and I'm not blaming Notre Dame. USC did pull out of the game, and I don't blame USC based on their schedule. They probably don't want to add Notre Dame to it. It just sucks for them because now they don't have really any other test on here outside of, I would say, just BYU and Miami. That Miami game is the season. If they are ready to go and they win that, they fully deserve to be in this playoff. They beat a very good team. I argue both teams would deserve to be in if they go 11-1 with a loss to each other respectively. I don't know. This is a really exciting season for Notre Dame fans because you only have that one test. It's not like you have Miami and A&M on the schedule that could keep you out. So if you can win that one, you should be clear cruising. I don't think Marcus Freeman is going to have this team losing to Syracuse or losing to Boston College. And not to jinx you guys, I just don't see that happening. Now, I want to point out why I have them at number 7 and not higher, because I think people in the comments might be like, wait, is Notre Dame not better than the 7th ranked team? The reason I have them this low is because I think there are a lot of question marks with this team, like what are they going to look like without these running backs? How is the offensive line going to come back from nasty injuries all over the place? Will this defensive line gel because you brought in some new transfer players? And I think they need those transfer guys. I don't know if this defensive line is talented enough to propel Notre Dame to being a top 5 team, despite what you have behind them. Because if you ask me today, would I rather have an elite defensive line or an elite secondary? I'm gonna take the elite defensive line every time. Now, for college level, they are insane. Like the talent on this team, so much NFL caliber talent. I think that they should be a top 5 team. Right now, I just have them a little bit lower because I have my reserves about some uncertainties with them. And if you want to hate on me for that, I get it. Like, go ahead and leave all the hate comments you want. If you think they should be top 5, let me know. Top 3, let me know. If you think they're the number 1 team, let me know, because I really could understand your argument based on what they have. That will end this video though. I will kindly ask you again to like and subscribe. Once again, that little football will appear when you like it. Please stay tuned for the next video. We've got some Big Ten teams finally coming. We're not just gonna do this as an all SEC series. This is gonna be a really fun one as we start to get into these top 6, top 5, top 4 teams, because it gets harder and harder to pick them out and rank them as I go along. Thanks for watching this. Notre Dame fans, be sure to send this video to a friend. If you're not a Notre Dame fan, subscribe. Your team might be coming soon. And be sure to leave me a comment and follow me on all my other social medias that I'll have linked in the description.